Hi everybody, my name is Paul.
And my name is Hedley, and welcome to episode 30 of Wessex Ways. Where have you brought me? Oh, roll the music.
Now you might be able to tell by the audio quality and the visual if you're watching on the YouTube. We're outside today.
We are.
Which is kind of cool.
We're on a big hill, aren't we? We're on a big hill. I lugged a 10, 12 kilogram rucksack up here with various bits of meals and food and drink and...
Yeah, picnic, Hedley.
Proper
time.
picnic, yes.
So we thought, episode 30. I can't even say 30. Sound like a right
30.
cock.
Watch out, you might get comments on that.
Yeah. Episode 30 of the podcast. We thought it would be quite cool to do something a bit different. So we're on, where are we heading?
This is Beacon Hill above Berkeley in Hampshire. So we're right at the north end of Hampshire on the Hampshire Downs, which we've spoken about quite a lot. And you've got the Wayfarers Walk down there to the south.
Yep.
And what we're doing is we're sitting on the north-western rampart of Beacon Hill, Iron Age Hillfort.
It's such a crazy hill.
Yeah.
Like every side is incredibly steep. It sticks up sort of out of nowhere on its own.
It is strange, and it's a strange shape if you look at it from above as well. The actual Hillfort itself is kind of hourglass shaped, and we've everything seems to have been quite vertical so far, hasn't it?
Getting up here, and the walk up here is a killer, isn't it? There's not many like this.
No.
I think I did a Hillforts video a couple of 3 weeks ago, and I don't remember any that were this tiresome to get up. It's not a long walk, is it?
It's not, but we did have big rucksacks today.
It's very true. It's the sheer vertical. Even if you look down, like up behind us now, is ridiculously steep. So you think, in terms of the Hillfort itself, it was quite impractical and very practical, depending on where you're standing.
I wouldn't like to be the one that had to go and get the water.
Yeah, exactly. We were talking about that, weren't we?
Yeah.
Because incredibly defensible, if that's the right word, from a Hillfort standpoint. Yeah. Whatever they did there, who knows? I don't know, because I didn't do much research on this one. Whatever they did here, it's very easy to protect. But it doesn't take long to run out of water, does it?
It doesn't. But what you have got, the one saving grace for the people that were here, is a very gentle slope off to the south. So on the north, you've got this big scarp down here, which is a good 80 metres in height, and that's actually where, when the peace women were at Greenham Common, because of the nuclear weapons there, somebody wrote "ban the bomb" over the hill. And the reason is this hill is visible, as you can probably see behind you, absolutely miles in every direction. Then you've got the eastern side, which is a bit more gentle, which is the side we came up.
I didn't feel it.
It didn't feel gentle. It's still very steep. And then you've got, again, here on the west, that beautiful sunlight over there. You can see some absolutely wonderful sunlight in the trees on the edge of Side Down Hill. You got the sort of the valley between here and Side Down Hill, which is the one over there. So that's bigger and taller than Beacon Hill, and that's the one that's got the Heavens Gate on the top. So this is all owned by the Highclere estate, and because of that we have Highclere Castle behind us, which of course was where Downton Abbey was based. And so to the south, so you've got the valley here to the west, and to the south you've got a very gentle slope that connects with the Wayfarers Walk at the bottom. So I would imagine, although it looked like the entrance to the Hillfort is on the south rather than the east, but I'm not sure actually. Most of them seem to be east and west.
Yeah, that's a good point. Which is curious, isn't it?
Yeah, but definitely this one here, the slope to the south, is the way they would have brought stuff up. Yeah.
So this is Beacon Hill. This is Wessex Ways. If you're new to Wessex Ways, we kind of just talk about a specific subject. I mean, we just waffle about something in particular. So
anything to do with Wessex, or the south of England, as we call it now.
Yeah, we do stray outside of Wessex sometimes, don't we? But surprisingly, do you know what I learned the other day? Surprising how far south Mercia was.
Yes.
Doesn't take too far, does it? We're almost on the borders. I wonder if we're almost on the borders now.
Well, it changed a lot. If you look at the time I know the most was 871, where you had Battle of Ashdown. And I think at the time...
That's very early, right?
It's very early. And I think at the time, the border between Wessex and Mercia, someone correct me in the comments if I'm wrong, was around where Whitnam Clumps is. Or to put it another way, the River Thames.
Yes,
so
it makes sense.
It probably was the natural border, but I think over time, the western side of the border kind of... I don't know if it crept south again. I'm probably ranting in the wrong direction.
No,
yeah, but...
Well, it's interesting stuff, isn't it? And I've been doing a little bit on that sort of thing from the channel, where I've been talking about sort of Mercia and the old counties and how they all formed, and fascinating subjects.
Yes,
but yeah. So
what have you been up to?
Yeah, I don't. Well, we haven't done a podcast. We always do this at the moment. We're doing like a monthly podcast rather than what we said we were set out to do. So we tend to have a lot crammed in, don't we?
Yes.
I think one of the most interesting things that we're doing is. Well, we did that. I won't talk about the Hillfort video because everyone's probably seen it, but I wouldn't mind talking about the Roman villa that Mark Maroney, never make his name right, a fellow at Oxford University I've been chatting to, writes a magazine called Antiquus, and I read in his magazine a kind of a story of his little journey through when he was in lockdown. He started sort of wandering around his local area and reading some old charters, and he basically found a villa, which was great. And so there's this whole story of how he found it, what he did, what he found. Roman villa, looking at some charters, how he came up with that. And then he thought, okay, well, there must be a road, because Mark was thinking, well, there's a villa, there's a road. And it was such an easy story for me to look at, because he'd written this story himself in the magazine. So I kind of picked all the pieces out, went to have a chat with him, interviewed him, and it's this fascinating story. It's like the channel we both watch, Allotment Fox, where you take a charter and you just try and find the route that charter, or the boundary that charter described, and that's exactly what happened with Mark. And all these bits of old English, the springs, the borgs, which generally would be barrows, like Bronze Age barrows, all these different clues. And one of the biggest clues was Flagon Florin. Now that to me said flagstone floor. But apparently a lot of the Anglo-Saxon historians say, no, Flagon Florin is a painted floor. And I couldn't get my head around it. I think, okay, well, I wonder why. But nevertheless, they if you see Flagon Florin in a charter, you found a villa.
Okay.
So how was that? So he found a villa. He hasn't done a dig yet, but he's done geophysics, and you can make out kind of the shape of the villa, where it was, and he thinks he's found some sort of fish ponds. And he thinks this was like a place called Shaken Oak, which is near Northley, a villa near Northley, and that is 100% fish production. That was a sort of a food production place. So he says this one was probably the same. But it's just fascinating how you can read charters, and then it goes on to mention Port Stretta.
Right.
Port Stretta. So you think, okay, well, that's Port Way, because there is a Port Way further north. You think, this is brilliant. So all of a sudden, 6 miles north, we've got this gap where it says Port Way on the modern OS maps, right down to where he lives, still says Port Stretta. So they refer to that as Port Street. There is no formal Roman road there. There is no sort of what Margu would call a proper sort of early via, a proper army constructed agate road. But nevertheless, it says Port Stretta. So that Stretta, 100%, 98% chance it will be an old Roman route. The road out of north of Oxford that goes to the Banbury Road, at least part of that, through Kidlington.
Yes.
I'm near your neck of the woods, aren't we, really?
Yes, yeah, absolutely. Kidlington's not far from
Kidlington. So Kidlington at least was a Roman road, but then it goes off northeast towards further above Bicester. And then you go on to the Port Way. Fascinating little. And I wish I could read Old English.
Yes.
But yeah, that's what I've been up to really in the last couple of 3 weeks. A few videos in the pipeline, as ever. But,
I haven't really been up to much myself, to be honest with you.
I reckon you've been doing more camping lately.
I have been. Yeah, I've got the camping bug, and I'm unapologetic about it. I think it's I say that. I mean, I don't think Mrs. Thorneh completely is on board with it and doesn't understand why I like to go up to the top of mountains and pitch a tent. But, you know, life's too short, let's face it. And, you know, the kids are old enough so I can bring them along. So we've been doing that. We camped on top of the Range above Abergavenny, so this isn't very Wessexy, is it? But
that's not Wessex, yeah.
just across the water from Wessex. But yeah, I mean, I want to do more camping around, well, places like this, to be honest with you. It's probably a sign saying no camping on the way in. There were about 30. Did you count the signs at all? Don't do this, don't do that.
I didn't count the signs, but even your dogs must be on a lead. 4 signs saying dogs on a lead within the space of about 4 metres.
Wow.
I mean, we get the idea. If you bring a dog, that's fine. That's completely understandable. But how many times?
There's 7. I mean, I didn't stop to read all the signs. There's so many of them. So God knows we've been cooking up here. So maybe I'm not allowed to do that. I've been flying the drone. Maybe I'm not allowed to do that. There's lots of. That's probably more realistic, actually. That one, isn't it? It's probably a no camping one and no podcast. But you know,
we should add that. Why don't we make a little sign?
No podcast.
And stick it on there and just see if anyone notices.
That's
no podcast filming.
Maybe every week we should come back and put a different sign on.
Yeah, I love that idea.
I used to do that sort of thing. You know, when I was a teenager.
That really appeals to me. We should totally
not quite sure how far I should take this because there's lots of people that isn't. But
you don't incriminate yourself.
When I was a teenager, we found it funny one night to swap around a few village signs.
Oh.
So welcome to Marcham, then said welcome to Hampton Boyle because it was funny. And
brilliant.
Anyway, we hid that sign behind my wardrobe at home, and then when I was about 40 years old, my father took the wardrobe down and saw a massive welcome to Marcham sign. But anyway, yes. No, I haven't been up to. I've been doing a few camping bits and pieces. To be honest with you, it's been a very, very busy few weeks. Work has been very busy, and I haven't done an awful lot. I'm kind of kicking myself a little bit because it's the best part of the year to do things in the summer. Yeah. I did a walk with Anna. We walked along some of the Ridgeway, and I don't really know. I did a walk out to Dorchester. That was quite nice.
As in your Dorchester?
Yeah, our Dorchester, the one Oxfordshire Dorchester. And that was rather nice. Had a pub lunch there and everything. But I haven't really done much. I've been basically managing these. Oh, the sun's coming up.
Yeah.
Been managing these Facebook groups, the UK Hillforts one and the Ridgeway and Ancient Tracks one, and they've been keeping me busy, and so is everything else. But I want to get out more. What I'm inspired by at the moment, going back to one of our previous guests, I mention him a lot. Good old Warren Brand.
Yep.
He and Dan from Camp Life Bushcraft have just walked the South Downs Way.
Wow.
So it's a 100-mile walk. I'm not quite sure how many days they did it over. I think it was something like 5 days.
Yep.
Camping and sleeping in various shacks along the way. And they're up to about episode 3, day 3.
Yeah.
And I still don't know. I know they make it to the end because they've posted that they have. But looking at the state, especially poor Dan.
They've not died, is that what you're saying?
They're not dead yet. They're not actually dead.
Not episode 3.
But they've had a couple of very difficult days. The South Downs Way is not flat. There's several thousand metres of climbing. And they had a day of rain where they had to walk 25 miles.
Wow.
And it all kind of fell apart a little bit, and Dan had blisters. Dan, don't show your blisters, please, on your YouTube videos. It makes wonderful videos, but as soon as you see him taking his socks off, you've got to fast forward it. But so I feel inspired to maybe head down to the South Downs. Tweedy's been down there as well.
I've seen a few Tweedies down there,
yeah. And he spent his earning some YouTube on £175 bottle of wine and had that in the middle of a forest. So yeah, but yeah, there's things I want to do. I am going to Dartmoor this weekend.
Yep.
Bit I don't know, it's my first proper solo camp in a very remote location. I'm going to be walking up the old is it Slate Railway there up to Great Links Tor.
There's all sorts. I don't know. Yeah,
it's an old railway. I think it's more for wagons rather than a train.
Yeah, if it's a Slate one, yeah.
Yeah, I think it's probably too steep, and I think it seems to double back on itself, which indicates they're probably small carts or something. But
yeah.
I think it's a Slate railway that goes up.
Brilliant.
So there's almost to the top of Great Links Tor, and then I'm going to break off from there and then head right up to the top and pitch the tent. So
Yeah.
looking forward to that.
For the weekend after that, the reason I asked you what weekend, I think the 14th, 15th of September, there is a wild camp going on with the Right to Roam.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Because
whereabouts is that? Do you know?
I'll find out for you. Guy Shrubsole.
Guy, yeah.
He said, "Oh, come down," because I got his new book launch and all that as well. The Lie of the Land. Available in all good bookstores. The Lie of the Land, and he's doing a big. What they're doing, it's a lot of people doing a wild camp.
Yeah.
In a respectful and well organised, well thought out
I
way.
think leave no trace is the thing. And, and I'd take it one stage further. When I wild camp, for example, above Abergavenny recently.
Yep.
When I got there was some litter that people had left around. So got the tents up, did a bit of a litter pick.
Yeah.
You can only fit so much in your rucksack, but what you can fit, you might as well put it in, because your rucksack is lighter when you go down, so you can afford a little bit of extra stuff. Just extra carrier bag, pick the litter up. Then we leave no trace ourselves. And we met this lovely Welsh bloke, and he had a wonderful red setter dog, one of those beautiful, really glossy coat, ever such a beautiful dog. Met him on the way down, and I was with my kids, and I asked him, because he said, "Oh, was it nice?" He had a broad Welsh accent. I'm not going to simulate it. He said, "Was it nice up there?" I said, "Yeah, it's wonderful. We saw the twinkly lights of Abergavenny," and I said, "I've been doing a bit of litter picking as well," and he said he was telling us how the locals actually quite like wild campers if they do things like that. So and doing lots of because other kids up there trying to do foolish stuff. Someone 1,500 feet down in Abergavenny has got a webcam looking at the Blorenge the whole time. So we were shining the torches off to try and see ourselves. It's very infantile, but
Brilliant.
The sort of thing I've been doing. Yeah.
All right, should we call that part one?
That's part one.
Part one.
We will see you in part two, which is coming up in a few seconds. Is that board the water okay? What I suggest is I do mine first, because that has to wait 10 minutes. Then we can get a burger on it. It means we eat at the same time.
Right, part two of the podcast. Probably be 3 parts, ladies and gentlemen. Hedley's going to start cooking. He's going to start cooking food. So we're not wild camping or anything extravagant like that, because I don't really do that. I prefer a hotel.
You're a wimp.
I'm a wimp. 100%. I'm a wimp. That is why I don't wild camp. But nevertheless, this is like stage one. Hedley's trying to give me the gateway drug.
Gateway to wild.
Wild camping, right? So this is. I'm just going to talk you through Hedley's outdoor.
Shall we go through? Shall I go through?
Yeah. Whatever you think, Hedley.
Okay. So we have for you. We have best ever Marks and Spencer's burgers with buns. Now my mistake is I don't know if they're pre-sliced, so your job might be to somehow slice those. And you got cheese as well, and whatever garnish you've got here. So you got bits of garnish there, barbecue dip. And for me, I'm being very simple. I'm having salmon and broccoli, something to eat. This is good. This is really good. I see what they've done there, Hedley. Clever play on words. For those that can't see the visual, it's a packet called Summit, as in top of a hill. Summit to eat. Yes. A clever play on words. Because it sounds like something to eat. It does, doesn't it? But it actually says Summit to eat. See? If you didn't get that joke first time, we'll put it in the description and explain it in great detail. Right. So I'm gonna set up a little bit, because I feel like things are going to happen now, people. I'll tell you, you're going to get some. We're going to get some noises. So, in terms of a podcast, obviously, the visual is one thing if you're watching YouTube, but podcast you need sound. Oh, this is going to be a good one. This is it. This is the old canister, so this will be a small flame. Well, that was very simple, everyone. So you heard the noise. That's the sound of gas being ignited through the medium of a canister. And Hedley's top tip for holding one of these canisters is ingenious. Take your left foot off. Take your left shoe off even. If you don't want to take your foot off, because that'd be quite painful. Yes. And off you go. And here we have now some boiling water. We have water boiling. Yeah. This is a very old canister. I've got a brand new one here. So this is going to take a few minutes to boil. And then what you do is you get this is not paid advertisement, you get the dried meal, you rip the top off, you then open it up, and it's got one of those resealing plastic things. Inside you take out the packet that's got "do not eat" written all over it. Do you know, sometimes I think society would just be better by leaving those kind of labels off and letting evolution do its thing. You know what I mean? So when that boils, I then put that in there, give it a stir with my spoon, which is here somewhere, and then reseal it, leave it for 7 or 8 minutes, and then that's good to eat. Wow. Meanwhile, I will cook your burger, your first burger, and we're good to go.
It's all very exciting, people. As someone that's never even, I don't even think I've camped outside of my garden. So this is all new to me. I can see a spider. Look at that. Yeah, proper wildlife now. Look.
I'm just trying to find my spoon. That's the only slight caveat.
This is lovely, people. It's
lovely.
Early September 2024. Yeah. It's not cold.
About 18, 19
it's not
degrees,
too hot.
Yeah,
this is the kind of a late summer weather I could very much get used to. And we're cooking burgers and salmon and broccoli pasta. Just lovely. And the view to die for, everybody. View to die for.
It is a lovely view, isn't it?
Absolutely.
It is absolutely gorgeous.
Yeah. So we finished cooking, everybody. Hedley, I say we, it's a royal we. Hedley has
my something to eat.
I want to see what it looks like, Hedley. Can I see what it looks like? Oh, okay. Very nice.
Very nice.
So basically, it's just like a pasta dish, and I've got my lovely burger with cheese and lettuce. What is not to love about sitting on a hillside, cooking, and not camping?
Food tastes better on a hill.
Yeah,
it tastes even better in the morning after you've camped.
That's very true. That's a great question. What do you have for breakfast?
I usually, when I'm camping, I just usually have porridge.
Yep.
So you have a porridge pot, it fills you up.
So do your water.
And a coffee, obviously, yeah.
Yeah.
So you do water, coffee, porridge. That's it, really.
Right.
I usually have some snacks as well. So overnight, I tell you what, again, a Warren thing. After you've had your main meal, if it's not too big, like this is too big, have apple pie custard.
Very nice.
Yeah.
Super. Right, that might be the end of part 2. Join us for part 3 very shortly. So, part 3 of the podcast, everybody. We've finished our grubs. We've cleared up the little spot, as you say, leave no trace and all that. So we've left that nice and spotless, apart from I've left a tiny bit of bread there, but I'm sure someone will make use of that. So we're in now the ditch of the outer bank, and there's at least 2, right, Hedley?
It looks like there's 2, yes.
Looks like there's 2. So we're in the ditch now. We're going to walk up this rather incredibly steep bank to the top of this rampart. So we're on the second rampart now, looking north, and there's a view like nothing else. Really gorgeous view. The sun's out. On the horizon we can see the weather that we've had, which is a lot of rain, isn't it?
Yeah, but there's been a fair amount of rain.
Yeah, and it's a gorgeous view. It's really gorgeous view. The sun is now shining. All of the fields are covered in the glorious sunlight. And if we turn around and face the other way, well, we've got, well, at the moment all we can see is the Hillfort, but we're going to talk a little bit about Hillfort. So we're going to talk about what we see. We're now going to walk across the Hillfort, and we'll talk to you about the bits and pieces we can see. Hedley's going to have some good shots, so we'll put those on the YouTube version of this podcast for those who want to see. If not, follow our social media, and you'll see a few pics on there too. So like Hedley said, we're on the north-west side.
Yeah.
Actually, just take a step back, because across the way where we were sat, you can see, I don't know if you can see it from this point, but you can see Ladle, is it Ladle?
Ladle Hill, which is the unfinished Hillfort, yeah.
Ladle Hillfort, the unfinished Hillfort. Now there's not many, or I think that's the only one I know of, which is unfinished. So they dug the ditches around where they have the ditches, and they said, I think I read as well, they said that they could work out that at least 2, maybe 3 teams were involved, because there's a slightly different nuances in the construction of the ditch. And they said, well, that tells us that there's 3 different teams that were constructing those ditches, and that's a wonderful thing. But then they just stopped.
Yeah, isn't there a Roman something or other to the west as well?
Wow.
A little bit down the hill.
Yeah, down the side of the hill there's something that's said to be Roman, like a little terrace.
Yeah.
But I don't know how they came to that conclusion.
No.
I've yet to find any evidence that says, oh yeah, it's Roman because. I'm not saying it isn't, but I'd love to know why people think it is. But yeah, absolutely. But Ladle Hill's fascinating. So but we're not on Ladle Hill. Maybe they looked across Ladle Hill to the west and they said, ha, that one's better. Let's stop here, lads. Let's come over to Beacon Hill.
Yep.
So
definitely better.
Right, where are you taking us?
So over this way, to the south, on the southwest corner, we've got Lord Carnarvon's grave. So I think he did a lot of things. I think he discovered Tutankhamun, I think.
Yeah.
I think that's who it is. But we'll have a look. It will say on the actual plaque there, but I'm pretty sure he discovered Tutankhamun, and that over there is his tomb.
Well, I can see some fencing.
Yeah, it'd be within that.
Yeah. Okay, right, let's head in that general direction.
Yep.
And we've got probably what is the estate to our west.
Highclere Estate. So as I said, you've got side downhill over there, which is slightly higher than Beacon Hill. These hills get higher the further west you go. So you've got Beacon Hill, then you've got side downhill, then further down you've got Pilot Hill, and then it sort of culminates at Warbury Hill. But yeah, this is all part of the Highclere Estate for Highclere Castle over there, and which I would get more shots of if I hadn't broken my drone.
Well, that's a bit, yeah. Well, we both brought our drones. So Hedley's had an error come up on his drone, so doesn't want to fly it for obvious reasons because better get it checked out. My little drone, I have not charged it, and so I got it out of this packet and had like 18% battery, and there's pretty much no point in taking off because it'll come back down, right? I think
so, yes.
Yeah, it gets to a certain percentage and says returning home.
Yes. That's a bit low to take off.
Yeah, it's not ideal, is it? And it's a little bit breezy now, so that will eat the battery even more.
Yes.
So yeah, we're now
ravens all around us as well. There's two in front.
That's a bit somber, isn't it?
Especially over the grave.
Oh look. Yeah.
And three of them up there. Now up here, last time I was here, I saw a red kite diving for a raven.
Wow.
It's usually the other way around. You usually see the ravens diving for the kites to protect their young, because the kites are bigger. But this was definitely the other way around. This kite was remorselessly attacking a raven and dive bombing it. So over to that side, which we go after the grave, there are lots of birds of prey. So we will obviously not be flying anyway. But that'd be quite nice when we get there. But yeah, we're just coming out now. We've got to find a way across here, haven't we?
I don't know, does it not go to you're probably right.
We're just coming up to Lord Carnarvon's grave. I'm wondering if down there,
get off
the bank and
in
then
the lowest bit,
sort of go up there.
And to highlight again, we've said it once or twice already, I'm sure, but how steep the sides are of this. Not just the Hillfort, because obviously that makes sense, the actual ramparts, the banks, but actually the steepness of the slope that surrounds it. It was a perfect spot. Yeah, absolutely. Right, I think we're going to head down into here then, Hedley, which is probably like the third
sort of embankment.
Kind of embankment, yeah.
You see, I thought this was a univalate hill fort.
Well, there's more than one, isn't there?
But there's definitely more than one embankment and rampart, isn't there?
I mean, this almost feels like one, although it's probably part of the middle.
This could be a natural contour, I guess.
Yeah, so we're walking up the rampart.
No, it's not a rampart. You've got the grave with ravens over there.
Yeah. So we're now approaching what is a squared enclosure of a fence.
Yes.
Recently painted silver.
Like it. Here's the sign.
Yeah, and we've got a little sign and a plaque.
So here we are. So it reads, George Edward Stanhope Molyneux Herbert, 5th Earl of Carnarvon, so it's Earl, not Lord, I got that wrong, 26th of June 1866 to the 5th of April 1923, adventurer, explorer, archaeologist. We should have had him on the podcast.
We should have done, shouldn't we, really?
Yeah.
100 years too late, but...
Here we are. Who, with his colleague Howard Carter, discovered the tomb of Tutankhamun.
Right, so, he was 20 when the railway down there was built. So I think it was his father that had a hand in building the railway. As in put some money into it. Said, right, yeah, railway's great. We want a railway connecting us around here, so we're going to build a railway. So I don't know who his father was, but yeah, you're right. He was obviously it says the Tutankhamun dude.
Yeah.
Did he catch something?
I don't know. I mean, I'm working on the assumption that we're on the Highclere estate, that he must have lived at Highclere Castle.
Right. Yeah. Okay.
So yeah.
We've got the squared enclosure. We've got, I don't know, like a 5.5, 6 foot, very sturdy, recently painted-ish fence around.
There are photos of him.
The concrete tomb.
Photo.
Right. Oh, there we go.
It's not going to come across on the camera, so I'm not.
There we go. We'll and yeah, right in the middle of the squared enclosure is a concrete tomb. Would you describe it as anything different than a concrete tomb, Hedley?
Well, it's definitely concrete and it's very tomby.
Yeah,
isn't it?
But that's it. Nothing else.
But that's quite a location to have a.
It is, isn't it?
I mean, you look on all, so to the north, west, and south. It's kind of a peninsula on the hill. It just drops away, doesn't it?
It really does.
And then obviously we're not at the top. The top is probably 200 metres up that way.
Well, this is the weird shape. This is like the bottom of the 8. The hourglass kind of.
The hourglass of the castle. Yeah. Yeah. Wow.
Yeah. All right. Well, we said we're going to have a carry on walking around, didn't we?
Yeah.
We said we're going to walk around to the south side.
So what we can do is we walk around sort of the rim of the Hillfort to the south.
Yep.
And then 300 metres that way, there's a gate which then takes you down onto that kind of ridge.
Oh, well, we'll see what that looks like, and we'll describe the journey to our lovely
Notice here we don't have the noise of the A34.
Yeah, we're very well
Whereas
aren't they?
over there we definitely will.
You know, where we sat and had our tea, our dinner.
How was your burger, by the way?
The burger was just wonderful.
That's because you're on a hill.
It's because you're on a hill. Yeah. I think also it does help that it was really well cooked. Like, it wasn't too much, and it was like succulent in the middle. I think that's exactly as it should be.
Good.
I think if I do something like that, I tend to barbecue it and just make a complete charcoal mess out of it.
It was your call on when it was finished.
Oh, fair enough.
Which is good. So you can take credit for that.
All right, I'll do that. Look at this, lovely. So we've stepped away from Mr. Molyneux, Carnarvon, Earl Fifth of something, and we're now walking around. What's really interesting is the ditches here between the ramparts are full of not just a bit of vegetation, but a lot. You couldn't walk down there comfortably without getting stung, brambled, and all sorts. But it's good to see that's
eaten by ticks.
Yeah, you would, wouldn't you?
Yeah.
The whole of this west side is covered in shrub and gorse and all sorts. Probably a haven for wildlife. It's really good to see that, actually. Away from the noise, as you say.
We'll get it back in a minute.
Yeah, that's very true.
Once we're over this brow, when we're at the gate,
yep.
The noise of the A34 reappears.
Yeah, I need to do some research on this, Eddie, to find out what Beacon Hill was used for. Because it would be quite interesting, I think, to see.
I can do that in a minute.
Yeah, I mean, the trouble is you have to do some digging sometimes, don't you? Yeah. If it's not obvious, you need to look at if someone's done any archaeological digs and all sorts. But
I'm guessing it's a bit like Uffington. I mean, it's the same height as Uffington.
Is it? Right.
I think this is about a foot higher or something.
Yeah.
But the purpose of most of these Iron Age hill forts seems to now being reinterpreted as more of a meeting place.
Yeah.
Somewhere where goods and services are traded and taxes are paid. It probably still had huts inside. It probably, had a palisade fence going around the outside.
Yeah.
Would have looked very impressive. And of course, this would have looked white.
Yeah.
It's overgrown now because it's not maintained.
Yeah.
But at the time, this would have been bright white. So these hill forts are quite a statement.
Yes.
If nothing else.
Yeah.
I would also imagine it was quite muddy at times. That light is gorgeous.
It is, isn't it? If only we had some drones, Hedley, on us. If only we had some drones, we could get some lovely shots.
You could show the YouTube viewers, couldn't you?
We can show the YouTube.
Apologies to the Spotify and Apple listeners.
That's true. But that's the beauty. We're describing the view. We were nearly in the innermost bit of the figure 8 of this hill fort. Yes. I guess the upper 8 or the southern side wasn't used in a hill fort sense because there's no ramparts, ditches or anything, is there? I don't think.
No. It's a what's it hole? Dew pond.
Right. Well, that's interesting.
It looks like a dew pond.
So we're quite far. I say we're quite far. We're probably 500 yards south of the Hillfort now, on this spur.
Yeah.
And we wondered what, still man-made though, Hedley. Like still man-made banks.
So this to me, right, I think this is a dew pond.
Yeah.
And then beyond
That's,
it, there's another sort of, almost a cross dike, some kind of lateral earthwork going across the spur of the hill.
Yeah. But maybe that answers our question about water. It's certainly from the perspective of that Hillfort there.
Yeah. How impressive does that look?
That looks amazing. So the Hillfort now, we're looking north towards the Hillfort. And you can see the ramparts. It's probably 20 or 30 metres above, probably more than that, our eye level. And it's a gorgeous sight, isn't it? Look at that.
That is amazing.
Never really considered looking at it from this this angle, this direction.
The thing is with this hill, it's so prominent from everywhere. Whenever I'm walking the Ridgeway through Oxfordshire, you know, whether I'm above Wantage, I'm at Liddington Castle, all the way over Lowbury Hill above where I live, and then across into the Chilterns, you can see these two hills here. You can see the distinct outline of Beacon Hill and Sidedown Hill. Yeah. And if you put the drone up, if I put it up, you know, from Didcot, you can see these two hills suddenly appear once you're above the height of the Ridgeway.
Crazy, isn't it?
And I think that plays into why this place had a certain importance about it, because again, to the south, if you've driven down to the coast, you see these hills 20 minutes on the motorway.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Before you even get here. And so I think there's a certain, I don't know, maybe a sort of kudos about them. Yeah. You know, if you ruled this hill and you had your lovely Hillfort at the top, then it's kind of a don't mess with me.
Interesting as well, I thought the wind was going that way, but I feel like that's coming this way. I'm talking about the weather, everybody, because it looks very dark on the horizon. I wonder what that hill is over there.
Oh, I should know this.
Because that looks like, sorry.
Right, so we're looking to the northeast.
Very much northeast, yeah.
Very much northeast.
A few buildings in the foreground, but we're way beyond, I mean, is that beyond Reading? Is that something sort of Goring way, or even further? I reckon further, Hedley.
I reckon that's further. I think we're looking a good 30 plus miles out that way.
There's a hill that really much stands out on the horizon, doesn't it?
Because if you're looking around that area and then further to the right, you've got some more buildings. Yeah. I'm actually starting to wonder if that's the edge of London, that bit to the right.
Yeah, do you think?
I think we can probably almost see to London from here.
Wow. Yeah. But the point is, it looks quite dark.
Yes.
The rain is, but I still don't feel like it's coming this way.
It really seems to be clearer. I'm assuming wind's coming from the west.
That's what I thought.
Yeah.
But that looks like it's approaching us. But there we go. We shall find out in the fullness of time.
Yeah.
Right. So yeah, back to the dew pond. That is clearly. Well, I say it's clearly. I assume that's the dew pond. But what do they do? Do they line it? Did they know how to line stuff?
I don't know.
With like a clay or something?
Anna Dillon might know more about that, and same with David Carson. But thinking about it logically, if you had several hundred people up in the Hillfort there, they're going to need food. So you'd have cattle, sheep, goodness knows what.
Grain stalls.
They would probably be around here grazing and down there. And if you're protecting your livestock, you'll probably have them up here. They need water, and I'm wondering if maybe this is where they got the water from. This is pure guessing. I don't know.
It's maybe
someone can correct us in the comments.
Maybe it's much more modern. It feels very square.
It does look square, doesn't it?
But
if only I had a drone, we could see.
Yeah, it would make a good shot, wouldn't it? Right, let's head back to the middle then. Let's head back. Let's talk about trig points for a minute or two. Literally just a minute or two when we get there. And so yeah, we're going to head north now, heading back towards the centre, where we shall finish today's little journey on Beacon Hill.
How dramatic does this look?
This is again, sorry to the podcast listeners, but we've just set up this shot where Hedley and I are basically silhouettes with a sunset, nearly a sunset behind us. Yes. So, you know, rest in the fact that the YouTube viewers can't see this either. Because they can't actually see us. Right, we're back at the trig point, Beacon Hill. We're going to head down in a second. Been a gorgeous evening, hasn't it? What a way to have our 30th podcast.
30th podcast. So they said, I think there was a statistic that only 2% of podcasts make 30 episodes.
Oh well,
so I think we're on our way in.
Yeah, we've done it.
The things that usually stop a podcast are either lack of willpower to do it, or audience drop off.
Yeah.
Well, can't complain about our willpower to do this because I
Yeah. No, wonderful. So yeah, from Beacon Hill, I guess we shall bid you farewell. Really, thanks for.
But before we go, we tell them what that was over there in the distance. It was.
Oh yes, the big, huge great hill.
Huge great hill in the distance is over. We looked at it on a map. It's Wargrave.
So start at the Chilterns.
Yeah, and those buildings you saw, start at the Chilterns, and those buildings you saw were Reading.
Right. So, fascinating stuff.
Anyway, sorry.
The weirdest is you can see it all around us. They've got 360 panoramic view all the way around us, pretty much, give or take, and it's beautiful. And all these different things you can see and try and spot where they are.
Yes.
Yeah.
Right. Well, hopefully see you and speak to you all on episode 31.
Yep.
And so as you say, from the top of Beacon Hill, goodbye for now.
Yep. See you next week. Next week?
Next week.
Whenever.
Not doing it every week.
Yeah, God.
Goodness me.